Mom Hacks, episode number 90. My name is Krista, and I'm your host. It's October 23rd, 2024, and on today's show, we are closing in on the final part of my 4-part series with my friend and fellow podcast host, Sarene Leeds. As I've mentioned on a few previous episodes, that name should ring a bell if you caught episodes 86, 80, 77, and my first ever bonus episodes I released back around episode 70. Sarene is the voice behind the Emotional Abuse is Real podcast, and it was very cathartic when she gave me the chance to come onto her show and share about the emotional abuse and the betrayal trauma I endured in my first marriage. On this last segment of our 4-episode series, we're talking about the very common challenge of work-life balance and how she navigates a busy career alongside being a present mom. But before we get into that, I just want to say thanks for tuning in, Mama. I started this podcast because babies don't come with instructions. As of this recording, I am chasing around a 6-year-old that no amount of Googling, mom groups, or books were able to prepare me for. There's a lot of stuff people don't talk about when it comes to pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, postpartum, parenting, and as someone who was previously terrified of all of the above, I'm here to help you pull back the curtain on all of it. And every now and then, it may get a little messy. We may share a little TMI, but that's why you're here, right? My goal is you will leave every episode feeling refreshed, inspired, and hopeful knowing you're not on this mom journey alone. Now, there's a lot of subject matter to cover when it comes to mom life, and we are covering it all. If you're not following this podcast yet, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. Now, let's hop into part 4 of my conversation with Sarene Leeds, host of Emotional Abuse is Real. Talking about no office job now. This is something else I also very much so relate to. And for me, it was the pandemic that really set me down this mindset, as I feel like maybe it did for a lot of parents. But being on that hamster wheel of the 5-day a week, 2-hour plus round trip commute and not having any time for your family, for yourself, and just all work all the time. And it's exhausting. And so now neither of us have an office job anymore.
Nope.
So excited to open up this topic of conversation. We know parenthood often reshapes our priorities, our values. How has becoming a mother influenced your professional goals and aspirations?
Oh my. So before I became a mother, my career was as an entertainment journalist. And it was a huge part of my identity. It was all I ever wanted to be. And I just loved it. Writing about TV and pop culture. It was my life. It was all I ever really wanted to do. But as soon as I became a mom, I had other responsibilities, other needs. And being an entertainment journalist was a 24/7 job. And it just wasn't compatible with my new life. And, as we've already talked about, I had a hard time adjusting to motherhood for so many different reasons. Colic, breastfeeding, and now with my daughter being on the autism spectrum. So back when she was a baby, I couldn't just hop to an assignment at the last minute because I didn't have that kind of childcare. I'll never forget one of my strongest professional relationships falling apart because an editor of mine, who I want to mention was a new mom too, which was so weird. She threw an assignment at me at the last minute, and then she got upset when I declined because I had no childcare. She didn't get it. And then when my daughter was about 4 months old, I got a part-time job as an entertainment editor at Mike.com in January 2017. But it just wasn't the right work culture for me. That was the other thing. The good news is that was completely remote, but all of my colleagues were just younger than me and they didn't have children and they just did not understand that I couldn't devote 100% of my energy to this job. So when I was laid off in August, I wasn't really upset. I also just knew that staying as an entertainment journalist was just not a secure option for me because people are always getting laid off. And so I actually decided to go to graduate school in 2021 to enhance my writing skills and to help me pivot from an entertainment journalist into other areas. And so I do now have my master's degree in professional writing. Yeah.
Which from NYU, right?
Yes.
See, Sarene, there's so much. I feel like we've talked a lot, but there's just still so much more that we need to sidebar about.
Yes, we do.
Post podcast recording. All of the
we
things.
Shall. We shall.
All I will say is younger Krista really, really wanted to go to NYU and didn't happen. That's okay. But I've been to New York multiple times, and see, now next time I come to New York, we need to have a face-to-face.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You've opened up another can of worms. We're going to talk about that.
Sorry, friends.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Obviously, mom life was one of the factors, but what factors led you to the decision that returning to an office job just isn't compatible with your life as a mom?
Absolutely. It was a combination of a lot of things. The Mike.com job that I mentioned, I had a temporary freelance gig in 2019 at a marketing company that a lot of this was pre-COVID. I had made these decisions pre-COVID, and then like COVID just confirmed everything for me. So this gig in 2019 forced me to unnecessarily commute into Manhattan and use up most of my energy arranging for my family members to pick up my daughter from preschool and to take care of her until I could get home. And it was at that point that I learned that commuting, because I live in a New York City suburb, ate up a significant fraction of my day and finances. And it was a complete waste of time because my profession is as a writer and an editor. Even before the pandemic hit, I was spending a lot of time convincing people who hired me for work that because I'm a writer and an editor, I don't have to be on site for a job. Then COVID happened. And from then on, I was like, well, we've proved it, right? Like, we do not have to be in an office to get our work done. So I have proved that I am way more productive when you allow me to work in the peace of my own home and you remove an income draining commute. And then in recent years, as my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD and now autism, it became way more apparent that my role as the CEO and CFO of her management, which is a full-time role, began usurping any availability I might have in an office job or even a full-time role, even if it was remote. So because I am the one who takes her to 99% of her doctor's appointments, all of her extracurricular activities, her social development group, her therapy sessions. And like I said, I'm staring down the barrel of adding to those supports. And great example is yesterday. I had to be available for yesterday's Zoom call with the evaluator. So the bottom line is I personally can't work in an office job anymore because I need a lot of flexibility in my life. Parenting my daughter and making an income at the same time is really, really difficult. And on top of everything else, it's very, very hard for me to get basic household tasks done when my daughter is at home. So laundry, cooking, cleaning, any attempts at work or podcasting, when she's at school, like I said, it's sacrosanct. That is the time where I can get everything, work, podcasting, home life, done. It's the only time when I have peace and quiet. So I need that flexibility. And that's why I don't foresee myself returning. I certainly don't see myself returning to an office job or even a full-time job anytime soon. I mean, I can't even talk on the phone unless it's scheduled. Like that's
I understand.
How precious. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my family is my priority. Yes, working and making money and my career are priorities too, because they're a huge part of my identity. But I just know from personal experience that I could never, ever, ever be a company person again. I mean, you guys can all go listen to my own podcast. You know why I could never be a company person at Rolling Stone ever again. So that in a nutshell is what happened. It's a combination of my neurodivergent daughter proving that the type of work that I do does not need to be done in an office, and COVID proved completely
Mhm.
unnecessary. Yeah.
So, can you share how this flexibility has enhanced your ability to balance work and family responsibilities and why it's become an integral part of your lifestyle as a mom?
Because this flexibility allows me to still say that I love what I do. And even though I have worked at Rolling Stone and the Wall Street Journal, I don't recall saying that out loud. And this is because I am in control of my work. I don't feel burnout. I enjoy myself when I'm working. And because I need to put my child as my priority, that, like I said, I need to, that way I get to maintain control of my life. And I felt that when I was in an office job, I didn't have that control. And I was so beholden to my bosses and to the other employees. And with my daughter, especially now with her needs, I could never be beholden to an employer. I
Mhm.
just couldn't. It's just not possible. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one gig, motherhood. I tell people
Yes.
it's the craziest, hardest, most rewarding, insane roller coaster of a job you'll ever have. But you know what?
It's so true.
I'm the one in this
Yeah.
seat, and I get to be the mom. That's my position.
Yes.
I This is the one job that I feel like I was ordained for, to be right. I was selected as her mommy. And you know what? In any
Yes,
other
you
job,
were.
there's 800 people waiting in line for that. And so
So true. It's so
I don't
true.
take this gig lightly. And I know you don't take yours lightly either.
No,
And
I
so,
can't.
and at the same time, we need to have our creative outlets and our ways that we're making money and supporting our families and livelihood and all of that. And it's such a beautiful thing when we can make all of that work together.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
no,
It's not easy. It's
it's
not
not
easy.
easy. And
No.
there are those rare companies out there that are doing some amazing things and realizing
There are.
it is beneficial when you support parents and you give them flexible work arrangements and you allow them to prioritize their family. But a lot of companies don't. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's so true.
well,
It's so
Sarene,
true.
so
Yeah.
you are the host
Yes.
of Emotional Abuse is Real, an
I
amazing
am.
podcast. You're
Yes.
navigating sensitive topics and complex emotions. How does
Yeah.
working from home support your emotional well being and enabling you to create content that resonates with people, especially as a mom juggling multiple roles?
So, Krista, I really don't see how my podcast would be possible if I were working in an office. I really don't, because you know as well as I do how much time and bandwidth a podcast requires. My podcast is very important to me for several reasons. First of all, it's allowed me to share my own emotional abuse story with an audience, which is part of my own healing process. And second, it enables me to share so many other stories of people who have felt silenced for such a long time. And third, I would certainly not call my podcast a hobby. It's such an integral part of my life and my work. It's connected me with so many wonderful people and reconnected me with you, which I'm so grateful
Same.
for. Yeah, thank you. I just can't imagine my life without my podcast. Fourth, my podcast is also a part of my marketing strategy. It's a way of getting my name and my work out there to potential clients. And It's also, I also see it as another form of journalism because I am telling people's stories. And just given all of my extra responsibilities as a mother of a neurodivergent child, I just, frankly, I just don't have the time or patience for office politics or work culture. I need to make the most out of the limited time I have while my daughter is at school. And that does include time allocated to my podcast, which, like you said, um, my podcast covers a very heavy topic. So I need to be able to do that in the peace and quiet of my own home.
Sure. Well, what advice do you have for the mom who wants to earn a living from home, but maybe an employer doesn't allow it, or maybe she just doesn't know where to start? What would you advise?
I think that there are two answers to this question because it covers two very different circumstances, but I do have answers to both. So the first one, if you're a company employee wanting to work from home, I say form an argument that consists entirely of facts, not emotions. That is critical because I did this for the 2019 marketing gig that I mentioned earlier because it required me to come into the office, even though I was doing all of my own work on my own laptop, which made no sense. It made no sense. I laid out all of the facts explaining that even though I had worked in the office previously, there was nothing about my responsibilities that necessitated my physical presence in the office. Again, my own laptop. I still don't get it. And I also laid out how exactly I could get all of my work done from home. And I argued that I would be more productive because I wouldn't be spending so much of the day commuting. So look, every company is different, and every career is different. So if you want to try this approach, you and I have talked about this before, start with the facts. Now, if you're thinking of going full-time freelance, which is pretty much what I do, look into maybe securing one client or a steady part-time job before completely jumping ship. I can tell you from experience that you need a plan, whatever that looks like to you, and be prepared for anything. Because like I said, one of the reasons why I prefer to work for myself is because, especially in media, people are always getting laid off. And I was just like, I just can't even with that anymore. And it's also why I went to graduate school to sharpen my skills. It's challenging and it won't always be smooth sailing. In full transparency, I'll give myself as an example. Even though I've devoted the past few months to marketing myself as a web content copywriter for individual clients, I have not secured the number of clients that I had hoped for. So I am planning on refocusing my energy on freelance writing again. I'm certainly not giving up on copywriting for clients, but first of all, I need money. I have a subject I'm really passionate about, not just one subject, many subjects. And I love being a journalist. So it all goes back to that flexibility. And that's just another way of me saying that I'm still accepting clients who need web copy written. So if you want to talk to me about that, hit me up.
Love it, Sarene. Well, what did I not ask you that you wish I would have?
Nothing. Krista, this has been so amazing. I mean, I can't believe how much of my life, my adult life, I have gone through. And it's been so cathartic and it's just been so wonderful going through all of these topics with you and just telling our stories, raising awareness. It is so, so important. And I'm just so grateful for everything that you do and for giving voices to all of us mamas out there because we all have a story to tell. Or you could be like me and have multiple stories
That's
to tell.
okay. That's what life is, right? Life is one big story with lots of little subplots, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Sarene, before we wrap, tell our
Yeah.
listeners where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram, of course. I'm at Sarene Leeds Writes. That's SareneLeeds. And if you come find me on Instagram, I have a free resource for you called Discover Your Brand Voice in 3 Easy Steps. It'll give you the foundation you need for building your brand voice, which can lead to authentic and effective written content for your business. So please come check me out on Instagram. Come check out my podcast, Emotional Abuse is Real, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. And you can always visit my website to learn more about my career as a journalist and as a copywriter. That's SareneLeedsWrites.com.
Perfect. And yes, y'all sign up for her newsletter because she sends it out weekly and I actually look forward to it. We all sign up for all kinds of things that come into our inboxes, and Serene's is one that I actually really look forward to getting each week. So sign up. You won't be
Thank you.
disappointed. In fact, you might leave smiling after you've read it, which is nice because that's not always the case with most emails that enter our inboxes, I feel like. So thank you, Sarene.
It's true. And thank you, Krista. That was so kind of you to say. And believe me, we're all inundated by everybody's newsletter. And I get it, but I'm working really hard to make it something that you want to read.
Well, that's a wrap for today's conversation with Sarene. If you enjoyed our chat, make sure you check out her podcast, Emotional Abuse is Real, wherever you listen to podcasts. In particular, I'd like to direct you to her episodes that dropped on June 5th and June 12th, where I opened up about my emotionally abusive first marriage. You can find links to her show along with her socials in today's show notes at secretmomhacks.com/episode 90. Go back and listen to parts 1, 2, and 3 of our conversation, which you can find on episodes 77, 80, and 86 right here on Secret Mom Hacks. I'm curious what your favorite part of our interview was. I hope you're walking away inspired with tips either for yourself or that new mom you know. If that's the case, please follow me on your favorite podcast platform if you haven't already. Give me a 5-star rating and leave a review sharing your favorite takeaways so far. You can do all of that by going to ratethispodcast.com/secretmomhacks. Don't forget to stop by secretmomhacks.com where you can find resources and enter your email address so every new show is delivered straight to your inbox. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Until then, you've got this, mama.